This week, we all know the division in our society is unprecedented, and now that division has found its way into the dating world. How bad is it? How bad will it get? And what can be done to fix it? And later, a listener's email begs the question, how friendly should we be with our exes? And is it normal for a current partner or spouse to be jealous of that friendship? Welcome to the talking phase. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Talking Phase podcast. My name is Tom, and I am joined, as always, by my amazing co-host, Pam. Pam, how are you today, and what's happening?
What is happening, Tom? I am doing really well. North Carolina is finally feeling like fall, a little colder than I like it, but nobody really cares about the weather in North Carolina. It's a little bit colder everywhere because I'm back on the dating apps. I've been back on there. I mentioned last week that I had a date after the show was going to come out. I had plans, and I think I told people that it takes a lot for me to actually agree to a date. The talking phase has to go pretty smooth because, I don't really look forward to dating. And so I have to really be pretty motivated. And I'd been talking to that guy for probably 2 weeks because he got COVID shortly after we had started talking. And so we had kind of pushed back a date, and he was so persistent. Like, he was one of those guys that, like, every time it was coming about to actually get to meet each other and see each other face to face, he was like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Do you want coffee? Do you want to grab a drink? We lived close together. And so, hey, I was just going to finish up the podcast and go right out and meet him. And so I looked at my phone and I realized that we had not confirmed the date. And in my opinion, this normally falls on the man. It's, I know it probably shouldn't, but I generally feel like a guy, especially that's been that over eager, is going to send a message and be like, all right, I'll see you at whatever time. And I noticed that he hadn't sent that message. And so I sent him a message and just said, hey, are we still on for 7:00? I didn't want to get, put makeup on and be all ready to go. And I didn't hear back right away. And then he texted me back and he was like, I'm really sorry, but I need to cancel. And by the time I saw that message and would have replied or not, whatever, he had shut down his entire profile. Like, he didn't
on the
just
dating app?
Yeah. And normally, like, it's not that uncommon that you unmatch with somebody, you have second thoughts, you go back and reflect on something that was said, and you're like, you know what, I don't feel this. But, like, yeah, he, like, shut down his entire profile. And I found that to be completely baffling because he had been so overeager. My thinking likes to say, well, he probably was dating somebody and it was maybe a little tumultuous, and so he was seeing what was out there. I don't know. There's no explanation. It is the joy of dating apps. And yeah, that's all I can really say about my week. It's just been kind of feeling out a couple different people, figuring out whether I want to go on any first dates or not, and getting ready to host Thanksgiving because next week is Thanksgiving. And so I'm having 10 people to the house, and trying to recreate my mom's recipes the last few years since she passed away has been probably one of the biggest trials of my life because I am not an entertainer. So that's what I have been focusing on this week, trying to keep myself busy. And I can only begin to imagine what is going on in Utah, sir.
Well, I'm going to say, right before you started talking about Thanksgiving, you said you don't really want to go on any first dates or something like that. I don't think anybody wants to go on any first dates.
Nah,
I mean, we should skip first, second, and third and just go straight to the fourth. But yes, no, I'm settling in. I mean, you guys, everybody knows I moved to Utah a couple of weeks ago. It snowed this week, which just really sucked. The whole reason I moved away from Utah is because I don't like the snow. I actually had to buy a coat.
Ew, a coat.
Yeah,
everybody owns a coat.
Well, and here's the other thing. A bunch of people saw I put out a video. I went to see Queensryche like the day after I got here, and I was with this friend. She's a really good friend of mine, has been for a long time. She's. I mean, I'm going to say it out loud. She's hot.
Yeah, I saw the video. She's very pretty.
Yeah, she's gorgeous, and we've spent a lot of time together since I've been back, and there are some feelings there, and I think we need to do an episode about, like, should you date your friends or dating versus friendships or something like that, because I don't know. I don't know if it's the right thing to do or not. I mean, she's awesome. I love being with her. We went to see a Fleetwood Mac tribute band the other night, which was awesome. But quite frankly, dating sucks. And
It
I don't know if I
does.
want to date her or fucking anyone else for that matter, because it just it just blows. But
Well,
anyway,
I think you're right. I think we definitely need to jot that down. And I think we definitely need to do an episode on dating friends. I've definitely encountered some of those situations myself. Yeah, I think
yeah,
maybe the audience will like to weigh in on the comments after that episode and tell you whether you should date your friend or not.
yeah. Well, we'll see if that ever happens. And she's pretty camera shy. So we'll see. Anyway, but so before we get into today's show, Brian, how's everything going in your world?
Things are going great, Tom. Glad things are going good out there in Utah despite your snow. I'm actually looking forward to snow because as some folks know, I have a young daughter. It's the holidays. She is so excited for Santa this year. So yeah, just looking forward to the holidays. That's what's going on in our world.
Good.
Outstanding.
Nice.
Well, now that we've introduced ourselves again to our wonderful audience and the Talking Phase family, I want to introduce today's topic pretty simply because, like I've said a couple of times on this show, on this episode, and the episodes before, I moved to Utah, and there are two things that happened almost simultaneously. One of them is that move to Utah, and the other one was the election. And both of them, I mean, they literally happened within like 36 hours of each other. And they made me think about today's topic, which is how important are our beliefs in dating and relationships. And and the reason I bring that up is because moving to Utah, for those who don't know, there are a lot of Mormons here. And when you look at a dating profile on a dating app, or for that matter, if you were to meet them organically, chances are half of the people you meet are going to be Mormons. And Mormons tend to only date Mormons, and non-Mormons tend to really hate the idea of dating a Mormon.
Makes
And
sense.
for a lot of different reasons. I mean, I'm what I call a recovering Mormon, and so I don't date Mormons. And so, I mean, I met this lady, I don't know, a week or two ago. Really nice lady. We had a great conversation, but I was reading through her profile, and she did not say in her profile that she is a Mormon. But in reading her profile, and some people who aren't Mormon wouldn't, or not a recovering Mormon, wouldn't have picked up on this. But I read a bunch of stuff, and I went, "Wait, she's got to be a Mormon." And so I asked her. What I said is, "How Mormon are you?" And she goes, 6 out of 10, which I thought was a really funny response.
Right.
But hey, that's 6 too many.
Yeah, I know you said you would never date a Mormon again.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's also this thing with the election, and we've seen it. I think they're calling it the 4B thing if you've seen that on TikTok. Where
I just jotted down before we started today. I just jotted that down as a potential topic. It's probably not enough for a potential topic, but yes, I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, and I had to look it up. I mean, it's based on some Korean thing. I think the 4Bs are some Korean thing, and these women are shaving their heads. They're doing all this shit, basically saying, "I'm not going to date. I'm not going to have sex. I'm not going to do any of these.
Not going to get married. Not going to have children." Like, I don't know. Here in America, I feel like it's a lot of hot air. But
yeah, well, we'll see. But what I guess what it comes down to is these people, whether it's a religious belief, a political belief, or anything else, and I'm talking about beliefs here, different than opinions. I think those are two very different things. But beliefs, how important are they? So Pam, I'm just asking you that question, and let's just start the conversation. How important are beliefs when you meet somebody and you're dating them?
Well, I mean, you started this by talking about religious beliefs, Mormon versus non-Mormon, and I was brought up Jewish household, and my parents were very much in the camp that I would only date Jewish men. And they held on to that hope until I turned 18, which is weird because I don't think I ever even dated a Jewish boy in high school. It's not to say I wouldn't date somebody Jewish. There's just not as many Jewish men. And so although my parents would like that, that did not fall into a belief for myself. So I went ahead and married a Catholic and had my daughter, and she considers herself, both Jewish and Catholic, and she doesn't really practice anything. So as far as religion goes, beliefs don't matter to me at all. Unless it was somebody who wanted to instill their beliefs into the relationship or into me, and basically say, I know that you're not religious, but let's find a church you like. Let's go to church on Sundays. That would be a hard no for me. I'm agnostic. So that belief system is shut. And the second thing you brought up was political beliefs. And that is completely shut also at this point in time without getting into politics. I will only date somebody who I am politically aligned with, or somebody who is apolitical and doesn't. And even as I say somebody that's apolitical, I don't think that I'm really wholeheartedly wanting to date somebody who doesn't care one way or the other. So yeah, for me, I'm in a position right now where dating sucks anyway, and the dating pool has been terrible. And now I have added on to it that you must be aligned with my political feelings.
So did I just understand this right? You said you won't date anybody who's not aligned, and you also don't want to date anyone who's neutral. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I don't want to date anybody that's neutral, but I probably, if they like checked every other box in my mind and I was like, this is a great person, and yeah, they're not going to get worked up about things I'm going to get worked up with, maybe that would be a good thing. So yeah, I'll take that back. I would date somebody who's not political at all, or somebody who has the same viewpoints as me. But I want to clarify, this does not extend to my friendships. At one point, I thought it might, but after giving it a lot of thought, um, especially since the election, I have quite a few good friends who do not agree with me with who they think should run the country, and they're still my good friends. So yeah, I think it's easy when you have a friendship to avoid conversations like that, tough conversations about politics. But when it comes to a relationship or somebody that I might want to have a long-term relationship with, yeah, that we're going to have that in common.
Yeah, see, that's what's interesting to me, and the political division in our country. And I want to see if we can separate, and let's beat the political one to death, and then we can come back to religion. But
Sure.
um, people talk about just 10, 15 years ago, people could be happily married and have no problem being on two completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right. My
Uh,
parents.
yeah, yeah. I don't even know what my parents' political affiliation was. I honestly have
I have
no
a
idea.
fun story.
Oh, let's hear it.
Yeah, so my dad used to be a legislator in my home county, and I remember there was one of my classmates who lived down the road from me, and her parents were both Republican and Democrat. So one of the parents had the sign of my dad out front, and the other parent had the sign of my dad's competitor out front. And I remember as
That's
a kid, I was like, "That's
funny.
weird."
I can see that would be weird.
Yeah.
And, I think that like I've always been a moderate, so I might lean a little bit one way or the other, but I'm a moderate. I have voted both sides. So I think that I'm a rational person. I picked the best candidate, but yeah, these times are different.
Yeah.
2024 is a different year.
I think the challenge that we're up against, and this is my challenge to everyone listening. We try not to be very political here.
We're trying really hard today too.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that 10 years ago, I mean, and you go back 30 years or whatever. And in fact, Brian and I had this conversation a few weeks ago on a very long drive from Knoxville to Nashville, that you had Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill on, like, you couldn't get more opposite people, and yet they
Right.
were very close friends. And I believe that this is just the world according to Tom. I believe the reason that we used to be able to do that is because we shared similar objectives or aspirations. We disagreed on the means of achieving them. Where somehow over the last 10 years, we've stopped having the same objectives. We want completely different things for our nation. So the means of achieving them don't even matter anymore. It's literally, we have changed what we want.
You are completely right.
And so I think we as a people And again, this isn't, unfortunately, this isn't about dating and relationships, but I think if we want to somehow get the political divide out of dating and relationships, we first have to fix the political divide, and we have to get back to actually wanting the same things,
Uh,
or aspiring to the same things. What are your thoughts?
no, I mean, everything you said is 100% true. I mean, literally, I feel like we're living in a different country now than growing up. I mean, my dad is always the most rational person I can talk to. When I'm concerned about something, I go to my dad, and he always says, "Don't worry, checks and balances, everything's going to work out fine. It's going to be okay. It's maybe not what we wanted, but it's going to be okay." And I'm not getting what I need from my dad right now because he doesn't feel like he can give it to me. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I just, bringing it back to dating, I feel like I've changed my profile and I've probably eliminated a nice percentage of people that are good people, good. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess good. I guess they could be good people. There's
Yeah.
people out there that let me rephrase. There's people out there that I could date that are probably attractive, have good sense of humor, good career, great, oh, great person. I don't know. I don't even
Personality.
know how to phrase it. You know what I'm saying? But like when it comes down to it, because of what you said, because we are so fundamentally different in how we feel this country should be run and where we should be heading, I think that it's almost impossible to start dating and have a relationship with somebody who is fundamentally different than you. I just,
Mhm.
I've talked to a lot of friends about this and they feel the same way. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just hard. And that doesn't mean I don't hate them. Just because I disagree doesn't mean I don't have any, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I try to surround myself with people who I really enjoy. And I'm
Yeah.
able to do that with friends, no matter where they stand politically. But with men, yeah, I don't need to start getting to know somebody from day one that I already know we don't have such a big thing in common.
Yep. I agree. So, I guess let's get off the politics and go back to religion, because
Sure.
how weird is it to say that religion is safer than politics? But
But
um,
it is.
it is right now, even though politics has kind of become a religion. Are you drinking vodka?
My glass says because politics on it, and I wish this was vodka, but
All
no.
right. Well, so it's funny because going into the religious side of dating, because even as a teenager, I grew up here in Salt Lake City, or just north of Salt Lake City, in a very Mormon town, in a very Mormon family. And I dated this girl for, I don't know, we went out, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. She was awesome. We had a great time. And I brought her to my parents' house because we were having I can't remember, it was a 4th of July or some sort of a picnic. And I just invited her over, a big family thing. And my dad asked her the question that he asked all of the girls that my brothers had ever brought home. And it's such a dumb question, but my dad goes, her name was Tristan. He goes, Tristan, what does your dad do in the church?
Oh.
Now, first off, that's a very patriarchal thing to ask. But it's also he just assumed that she was a Mormon. And I had asked him very specifically that very morning, Dad, she's not a Mormon, don't ask. But he
I
did it. I
antagonizer.
I think it was to antagonize me, to be honest.
Oh, funny.
Um, but but to my parents, I was raised that Mormons date Mormons, period.
The
And you
Jews
had,
felt the same way.
what's that?
The Jews felt the same way.
Yeah. But it's just such a crazy thing to me. So here I am in my 50s, and I've told this story before, where I dated this lady when I lived in Florida, that she said, Tom, you're a great man, but I need a man that loves God first and me second. And I will never understand that. But how important do you think that, too? Like, if I'm a complete agnostic, just like you said. In fact, I kind of lean more atheist at this point. I don't know if I'm an atheist, but I definitely am not a believer. Um, can a full on Christian, or a Muslim, or a Buddhist, or any of those, can a full on religious person make it with a non believer like you and me?
I think so. I think that I don't know. Love conquers all. I think that two people who are head over heels in love with each other and have been honest about where they stand religiously from the very beginning, and they're talking about getting married, let's say it's been a year, 2 years, whatever it is. I think that as long as there's a certain amount of respect for the other person's autonomy and for the fact that they've made a decision for themselves, as long as they can figure out how they're going to raise their kids. And that's a difficult subject, because in my first marriage, he didn't care. So I raised my daughter Jewish for probably the first 7 or 8 years of her life. And then I got lazy and she got lazy. But like I said, she still considers herself Jewish and Catholic. So he didn't care. Then my second marriage, my ex-husband was very Catholic. And when I said I wanted, in the Jewish religion, you automatically get to raise your kids Jewish. I'm sure Jewish people made that up. But under Jewish law, you are what, maybe I don't know how far that extends, but you are whatever your mother is. And so when I tried to sell that to my second husband, he was not having it. Like he really wanted our son raised Catholic, and he dug his heels in hard. And so we agreed to raise him nothing. To allow him to decide later on, he meets a woman, she's Catholic, she's Jewish, whatever. If he wanted to incorporate their religion into his life and become that religion, we didn't care. And instead, what wound up happening is my son is now 21, and no one will ever convince him to not be an atheist. And we're probably partially to blame for that because we didn't raise him with any religion. So I think that where kids are concerned, it gets a little sticky. But if you can agree to either raise the children one religion or another, or to not raise them any religion, and you're not going to have a fight about it, I think that those people can still easily get married and have a happy life together.
Well, I'm going to give one quick story and then we can kind of wrap this up. I think when in my second marriage, I was a recovering Mormon when we started. And by recovering, I hope everybody knows I'm being snotty. I was an ex-Mormon at that point. And so I wasn't going to church. I wasn't, there was no religion in my life whatsoever when we got married. And 5 years, 6 years into the marriage, she decided that she wanted to go back to church.
Oh,
and
true.
Now, again, if someone wants to go to church, I don't have any problem with that. You do what you want to do. The problem is Mormonism is a little different than most, at least in my opinion, because you end up paying 10% of your gross income to the church. And so when she announces she's going back to church, all of a sudden I'm going, oh shit, there goes 10% of our income. And again, I don't care if you go to church, but if you start taking my money, and she said, well, I'll just pay tithing on my income. Okay, well, once again, that means that I need to bump up my portion of our household bills and stuff. So no matter how you slice it, it takes from me.
Right.
That one really was a bugger.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
And it wasn't even in the beginning. It wasn't even something you could discuss because you were already all in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's unfair. Life is not fair.
Life is not fair. So what do you think? Are we good with that, or do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I think that we have definitely brought up a sensitive topic, and maybe people are shaking their heads or nodding their heads and have dealt with some of this, especially recently. If you're in your 40s or older, or even if you're in your 20s or 30s and you're dating, and I know that we're all coming across profiles now that are much more specific as to who we would like to be dating. And, I feel bad for all of us because dating was hard enough before you bring in politics, but all of a sudden, no matter where you're scrolling, if you're scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, I don't know, unless you're on a different side than I am, I'm seeing a lot of hard times ahead until we figure out how to navigate what happens next.
Agreed.
So good luck to us all.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm ready to close that topic and move on.
Let's close it out. What's next?
You've got mail.
All right. Maybe it's something totally different. Dear Pam and Tom, I have been divorced for 5 years and remain good friends with my ex-husband as we share a daughter. Our daughter is an adult now, but we've always gotten together over the years for special occasions or just to catch up. I
That's
recently
nice.
meeting someone, and before things got serious, I told him all about my relationship with my ex. He said that it sounded nice because he and his ex hate each other. Flash forward 6 months, and I have plans with my kids and my ex to celebrate my daughter's birthday. I invited my boyfriend to join, but he said no. He also said that he's not comfortable with our friendship.
Mhm.
I reminded him that I told him about this in the beginning, but he obviously thought that I would drop the friendship for him. I don't want to do that, but I also don't want to end my relationship over someone I'm no longer married to. Please give me your thoughts. Callie from Cali.
Wow.
Please give me your thoughts. I will let you start on your thoughts.
Holy crap.
Poor Callie.
Poor Callie. Yeah.
Poor Callie and Callie.
So my first thought, I mean, seriously, listening to that, my first thought is what a petty, jealous little man. She's,
And yet there's so many of those out there.
yeah, but dude, come on. I'll tell you what, I'm jealous of you, for example. I mean, you've got a relationship with your ex that is pretty cool.
With one of them. Yes,
With
I
one
do.
of them.
Right.
And until fairly recently with the other. Come on.
Yeah.
Um,
It was never good, but it was cordial. But yes, I do try my hardest to remain friends with people that I have married or dated.
yeah. I mean, and hats off. I mean, I think that's awesome.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you so much.
I mean, like seriously, I wish I had that. And now, not necessarily with my second wife, because what the hell, she cheated on me twice. I don't really want to have that kind of a relationship.
No, I don't blame you.
You know, with my first wife, she's the mother of my children, and we had a fairly bitter divorce that took a year and a half and cost me a shit ton of money. And so, you know, I'm not happy about that. And so, I mean, it's been 20 years, so I don't really care. At this point, it's 23 years actually. I don't really care at this point, but you know, so 23 years have gone by. It's not like I'm going to call her up and say, "Hey, can we be friends now?"
No, right.
But I just don't understand. What is he afraid of? He's not comfortable with their friendship. Why? Why? What is she? Is she? Oh, every time she sees him, she thinks wantonly about his, you know, him lying in bed. I mean, what does he think is going to happen?
Okay. Well, after my first divorce, and we were only married a few years, Nikki's dad started dating somebody pretty soon after and remarried. Um, and I won't say that we were friends after the divorce, but we were very cordial. We got along fine. Talked about Nikki all the time. And as soon as he got remarried, she forbid him from ever talking to me again. She was insanely jealous.
Mm,
And, just that was it. I think they were only married for, and I'm guessing probably 2 or 3 years.
shocker.
Um, and right. And then after that divorce, we we did become friends, and of course, that's the one we were talking about, Nikki's dad. We've been divorced for 27 years now, and we've been friends for at least 20 years now, and I value that friendship so much, and I think that he values it also. Um, but his wife after me did not value our friendship with each other, and I think that jealousy and insecurity is almost 100% the reason that so many people are not okay if you are friends with an ex. And it's not just your ex-spouse. I mean, I think a lot of people don't want you to be friends with your ex-boyfriends. I mean, like, I just think that there is a tremendous amount of jealousy and insecurity and worry that you're going to go back to the person that you're no longer with. It's not a logical
No.
emotion.
And here's the thing. My second wife, Trinity, and we never use her real name. But so Trinity, I mean, we work together, and it's a male dominated field. Um, and I'm still in that field. And just to give you all an example, I work in the Salt Lake office here now, and despite our best efforts to hire women in our office, there's literally one woman in our office.
Wow, that's
Second one
crazy.
starts on Monday. So, you know, we'll have 2 of the 15 people in the office are women. And it's not because we try to hire only men. There's literally not a lot of women in this field. And so my ex-wife Trinity was in this field, and so she was on a team of 20 or 30 people, and she was the only woman. And so if I had been a jealous person, not necessarily of her ex or anything like that, but if I had been a jealous person, I could have really made hay that, oh my gosh, 30 guys around her all the time, and she's a beautiful woman. But here's the thing, I was never jealous until she started sleeping with one of them.
So maybe they all have a reason to be jealous.
Yeah. And here's the thing. She cheated on me. I found out about it. And I mean, I've done dozens of TikToks we've talked about on the show. I'm not going to rehash that, but I find out about it. And then I became jealous. And I admit, and I'm not happy about this, but I'm admitting I became jealous. And because of my jealousy and my unfortunately well-founded fear that she was going to start fucking more coworkers, I probably became, I was certainly not very trusting. I became pretty clingy, which could easily be interpreted, and I'm not even going to say misinterpreted, but interpreted as controlling. Because I was trying to make sure that she didn't go screw another guy. And I honestly believe that my jealousy, clinginess, whatever you want to call it, contributed to her second affair. And I'm also convinced. What's that?
I said that's putting a lot of blame on yourself.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not justifying her second affair or her first affair for that matter. I'm just saying that what I've come to realize in the 5-6 years since the second affair is that no matter how much control, clingy, whatever it is that you're trying to do to prevent someone from cheating on you, if they're going to cheat, they're going to cheat. And so you can't, Princess Leia said it best. The tighter you squeeze, the more of us will slip through your fingers.
So you don't think that anybody, I was going to say, you don't think that anybody ends up starting an affair because of the way that their significant other is treating them, whether it's a dating relationship or a marriage or whatever it is. I think that we've talked in the past about the fact that there's never an excuse to cheat. I mean, like facts, there's never an excuse to cheat. And in this situation, and going back to her email, we don't know these people, and we don't get a heck of a lot of background information.
Right.
So I don't know whether she stands outside and talks to him on the phone, for an hour while her boyfriend is in the house stewing about that conversation. I don't know how they communicate with each other. But I don't know if I can agree 100% that if you're going to cheat, you're going to cheat. I think that I know people who have been in situations where I don't think that there was any part of them that thought they would ever cheat on their significant other. But they felt trapped for one reason or another, whether it was financial or the kids, trapped and miserable.
Mhm.
And that led to something extramarital that should never have happened. And of course, there's a lot of regret, and there's plenty of blame to throw around, and there's never an excuse to cheat. And yet I think the stats are absolutely astounding of how many people do cheat.
Yeah.
Just because they're miserable and they're looking to bring some kind of joy into their life. And I'm not excusing it, but in an email like this, I feel like his fear that she's going to cheat on him with her ex, which has got to be what it is, because if you're not insecure that the person is going to go back to their ex, then you don't really care if they're friends with that person or not. So his fear is not going to jettison her back into a relationship with her ex, but it's also not going to help their relationship.
Well, and I think that's my point is we don't justify cheating. There's never a justification for it. But the blame that I assume, the blame that I take on myself is whatever contribution I made to a situation in which she felt that was her only option, or that was an acceptable option.
Or I was thinking maybe she figured that you were if you already thought she was cheating, then there was no point in not doing it.
Right, exactly. So I helped to create, I'm not going to say I created, I
Right.
helped to create an environment in which that was either an option or something that she thought about. And again, no excuse for her, but I
No.
look at this situation, and again, I know we've talked about me a lot in this, but I look at this and I go, so here's this guy, she's been, kudos to her. They've been divorced for 5 years and they've remained good. And by the way, with adult, their daughter's an adult. I
Right.
mean, it makes even more sense if the daughter was 5 years old that they would remain friends too, because they're going to go to soccer games and dance recitals and all that
Of
kind of
course.
crap.
Right.
This is an adult daughter, and they've still used that as a good reason to remain friends. And this, I'm sorry, Callie, your dickhead boyfriend um, wants you to break off a relationship with someone who is the father of your child, who's maintained a good relationship with your daughter and with you. Your ex seems like a good guy, and your current boyfriend seems like a complete petty little dick. Now, okay, there's my there's my there's my thought.
Right. And I understand that you're probably going to feel this even when I think that I'm going to make a correction and let you know. I just went back and read, wait, I missed the very top of this email. Oh, yeah. I was thinking, I wondered why I had cut off the top of the email and our daughter is an adult now. So I, for a minute, thought that maybe we didn't know if she was an adult. Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's probably more of a reason why this guy has a problem with him. He's probably like, yeah, if she was little, I wouldn't have had a choice, but like she's an adult. I think that, it was really kind of her to invite her boyfriend to celebrate her daughter's birthday. They've been dating 6 months. It's not like it's 6 years. He's known about the relationship from the beginning. He's known that they were friends. He's included. She's not sneaking around or hiding something or saying, "Hey, listen, Saturday I have plans. I'm going to do this with my ex-husband." I I celebrate all special occasions with my ex-husband. With my first husband, my second husband and my first husband were friends. They were pals. They got along great. I feel very lucky that they got along really well. But fast forwarding to now, you know, I do this is going to sound crazy on a first date with somebody when they're like, "Tell me about yourself." And they always want to know about your last relationship and all of the things that led you to this unfortunate dating app date. And
Huh.
I always forget in there somehow on a first date or on a second at the very latest that I am good friends with my ex-husband. Um, and I tell them that I see him and we hang out and that we're good friends. And I tell them we've been, divorced for 27 years. And if that makes them feel threatened, I mean, if we were going to get back together, we probably would have gotten back together by now. There's still time.
Yeah.
But with Zach's dad, we were friends. As you said, we were good friends, and he started dating somebody, and she didn't want him to be friends with me. And
What's the deal?
we'd been friends or friendly for 5 years. He doesn't live in the same state as me, and he dropped me like a hot fucking potato. Sent
Wow.
me a text and said, I know that I've always asked you to be a better friend and, call me and ask how I'm doing. And, I may have been a little bit lazy about that with him. And so I was trying to do better and show him that he mattered and that the friendship mattered to me. And then he replied with a text and said, "Listen, I've changed my mind. I don't want you to work on this friendship. I don't want to have this friendship at all. Um, I've met somebody. This is not healthy for me." And I'm like, what could be more healthy than having a friendly relationship with somebody that you were married to for 20 years? Neither one of us did anything horrible to each other. We were great I'm a great parent. I used to say we're great co-parents. I used to give him a lot more credit than he deserved. I don't have to do that anymore because we're not friends. But he like moved the day after Zach turned 18 and like has been
Mm.
a very absentee parent ever since then. And so it's his loss that we're not friends. But I am seeing more and more that you do need to let people know clearly more than she even did, that like, I'm going to spend time with this person. You're welcome to join us, or not. But like, this is this is my life.
Mhm.
And this is how I plan on celebrating special occasions or just a random Sunday.
Yeah. Well, so, the interesting thing, she ends her email saying, um, uh, he thought that I would drop the friendship for him. I don't want to do that, but I also don't want to end my relationship over someone I'm no longer married to. Now, here's the challenge that I'm up against. My advice to her, I'll tell you right now, my advice to Callie from Callie, drop this guy like a bad habit. He is a jealous, controlling person. And quite frankly, I think he's manipulating you into doing what he wants rather than what you want. Having said that, we just finished talking about how bad it sucks to be in the dating world. And so she has found someone.
Come on in.
But yeah, I mean, I feel bad, but you know what? Don't settle for someone who you're not going to be happy with just because you don't want to be in the dating world. I'd rather be single than settle. So
Well,
those are my thoughts.
you're saying this is a deal breaker.
For me, this is.
I think it's a major red flag, but I think that if there's a possibility that maybe he's just built something up in his head that makes your ex such a threat to your relationship with him at 6 months, maybe try really hard to get him to join you um at this get together. Really try to get him to join you, really try to figure out what the problem is. He should be able to sit down, have a conversation about why. Why do you have a problem with him? I respect the fact that you're threatened. I respect the fact that you don't want me to be friends with him anymore, but I need to know why. I don't believe that there's a rational explanation for why, unless maybe he's seen or heard something that she's unaware of that has made him, more worried about this guy. Because, she told him about him at the beginning and he was fine with it and even praised it. And now he doesn't like it. And so I think before you end the relationship, get to the bottom of the why. And if he is unwilling to come up with a pretty good reason, and also unwilling to at least meet him and get to know him and see he's a good guy, he's not a threat to you. Maybe, is he dating? Has he moved on to somebody else? Or is he just pining away for you? Is that the problem? That this guy knows that it's been 5 years and, you've told him, yeah, he's still in love with me, but don't worry, I don't want to go back to him. I mean, that might have made it seem a little bit more threatening. So after you have a really good conversation, if there's no wiggle room, you just simply have a choice to make. You have a choice between ending a relationship with your ex because somebody else is telling you what to do and what they want. And if you're the kind of person who doesn't mind being told what to do, believe me, this will not be the last time that he tells you what to do. You guys have been
Absolutely.
together 6 short months. They go really fast. And if you're prepared to change your life because somebody else wants you to, and there's not even an an inkling of a good reason, then I hate to say this, but you're probably going to reap what you sow and wind up losing the friendship with your ex. And this relationship also is kind of doomed to fail.
And potentially with your daughter. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an adult daughter. I feel like if I was to say to Nikki that I was dating somebody who was uncomfortable with me hanging out with her dad, and so I wasn't going to do it, um, it would not affect my relationship with Nikki. Uh, but it would affect, honestly, it would affect how I feel as a human being,
Mhm.
as a person. If I was willing to sacrifice that friendship of 20 years, um, because somebody I'm dating feels insecure, that's not how I roll. So like this email to me was a no-brainer, but
Right.
not everybody's the same. And I know a lot of people who are very insecure or who have come out of relationships where they've been cheated on by somebody who went back to their ex. And so, maybe he has some valid fears. Maybe it's worth at least some good conversations and a little bit of effort. But if he gives you an ultimatum, that's a very, very bad sign. And I personally would end the relationship for that.
Yep. Obviously, so would I. So
Yeah. So that's where we stand on that. And hopefully that will help you. Um, Thank you for sending us your emails. As always, we do our best. We are not professionals. God knows you can tell we're not professionals. But we do have 114 years of experience basically between us. So send in those emails. The address is talkingphase@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. I will read every email that you send in, and I will respond to all of them. And if it makes it on the show, I'll let you know when we're going to answer your email so that you can listen and possibly have the person you wrote about listen. Although that's probably a little bit daunting since you never know what Tom's going to say. But with that, please, if you have a question, if you have advice for her, you can send that email in, or you can comment now on both YouTube and Spotify. Comments are open. I read all of those also. So don't be shy. Tell us how you feel and send us your emails. Again, it's talkingphase@gmail.com.
Awesome. And by the way, if you're saying that I'm unpredictable, does that mean you are predictable, Pam? Come on, you never know what Pam's going to say either.
Nobody knows what I'm going to say, but they probably aren't quite as nervous about it.
Okay, that's fair.
All
right, everybody, please take a minute and rate and review. We love this. I was just reading some of the reviews on Spotify this morning. I think it's fantastic. Thank you for everything you're doing. Those ratings and reviews really helps us out. Thank you for listening. Be sure to share the podcast with your family and friends. We do this every single Friday. And always make sure you're following us on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Pam always does a great job on all of our different social media. And so until next Friday, this is Pam and Tom signing off.
Have a great day, you guys, and a week and a month. And listen, our next episode is after Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody.